You're listening to the Back Home Network, presented by Homefield Apparel.
Right up Meridian, baby.
All right, folks, welcome back. Right Up Meridian. Scott here with you. If you don't know, you should know, but we are sponsored by the Back Home. The Back Home Network is sponsored by Homefield Apparel. Obviously, I don't know because I can't even say it. I should get Pat McAfee on here. He can start just cursing. If you didn't see him at the start of the fourth quarter, he's just cussing out in the middle of the stadium. It's fantastic. But he would tell you that Homefield Apparel is your one-stop shop for all apparel needs. They have a new Arrow McLaren collection out, which is awesome. Indy 500 collection. Check them out. Use the promo code HOME23. Get 15% off your first purchase. Tony, where the hell to start, man? Game 4. I don't think we've talked since Game 3. Game 3, you have the Nembhard runner, or the crazy 3. And then Game 4, Indy wins 121-89. Just an absolute ass-kicking. Where you want to start? Great weekend for Indy.
Yeah, just a ton of fun. I know that you were in the house for both of them.
Yep.
I was downtown on Friday, so got to feel the energy downtown, and it's just so fun. Like, the macro picture of just like having a weekend like that in May in Indy, just like against the Knicks. It's just like, for any nostalgic folks out there, like it's like, it doesn't get any better. Like, it's just such a fun weekend. And have an opportunity to do something similar maybe this coming weekend as well.
It's funny, and part of the reason you and I wanted to start this podcast is I'm listening, listen to a little bit like Inside the NBA. They're not quite as bad. Listen to Bill Simmons this morning. You start listening to some national voices, and it's really annoying because we had a great weekend with a buzzer beater and then just a beatdown. And it feels like a lot of the national narrative is, man, the Knicks they're playing too many guys. It's all Knicks this, Knicks that. What are the Knicks doing wrong? And like, a little bit of like, yeah, Nembhard's, that's a wild shot. That goes down one in every 20 times. And, this is what happens when the Knicks play too many guys. And it's like, could we get some love for the Pacers? Like, we just blew out a team by damn near 40 in the playoffs. The series is 2-2. We're coming in hot. It is what it is. I know it, but it is frustrating from a national perspective to just all you hear about is, Giannis is hurt in last series and Dame's hurt. And now it's like, the Knicks are playing too many guys and they're hurt and they're overplaying guys. Like, can we get a little bit of love with how good this team has been?
Yeah, it was especially frustrating yesterday on the broadcast, too, because it was Mike Breen, who I like, but
right.
He's the Knicks play-by-play guy.
Right.
Doris Burke, born in New York, and they're the two primary voices on the broadcast. JJ Redick was on there too, but he's the B analyst, with
right.
them. So I was a little annoyed there too, because it was a lot of excuse making. And then my favorite part was it was towards the end of the game, and it just kind of it was like summarized how the national folks see Indiana. So they're like, Indiana, they do have a guy that is also hurt that averaged 15 points per game. And they go on to talk about Mathurin for 30 seconds or so. And this is there's a minute left in the game. And then they talk about Mathurin, and then the camera pans with the zoom shot of Isaiah Wong. And it's like, man, nothing summarizes that the Pacers more. I mean,
Yep.
It was a good 5-second shot of Isaiah Wong in his street clothes, and they 100% thought Isaiah Wong was Benedict Mathurin.
I will also, something that happened in the stadium that was great with about 6 minutes to go, maybe 5 minutes. I sit across from the Pacers bench, kind of section 19, 20, and 1. Started a little chant of "We want James for James Johnson," and it was funny because Obi Toppin heard it, was doing come on, let's hear it, and Siakam starts kind of laughing, and then I think Pacer was shooting a free throw, and he's like, "All right, man, shh." And we were kind of joking. It's dude, if James can't get in this series, if he can't get in that game, I was wondering, it's possible he didn't have a jersey on. It's very possible he had his warm-ups and was wearing just a t-shirt underneath, and even he was you can see the team was kind of joshing him. It's man, if James can't get in this game, I guess he's just not getting in, which, by the way, he wasn't signed to play. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. They panned over to him at one point too, kind of talking about how people were wanting to see him play, and he was smiling, and that was a funny moment. But yeah, he definitely ain't getting in.
No. But you look at, I think a couple things changed. I think that the venue changed, helped for Indiana. I think the refs, we talked a lot about it after games 1 and 2. It did feel like, just as a Pacers fan, it felt a little bit one-sided in New York. It didn't feel as bad here. Although I think it still goes down game 4. Now, obviously we were playing a different pace and the game got out of hand. Not a single Pacers starter went to the free throw line, which is still just of note. The Knicks had more free throw attempts. They went to the line 31 times. We only went to the line 8 times. It still feels like the game is being called slightly differently. Also, the Knicks play style where they're out there hunting for fouls. So I think that changed. But also, I think, the Pacers, they moved Nesmith. Nesmith is now guarding Brunson a lot more. I think that has changed a lot. And, I don't know what they're doing with Halliburton for his back, but, after game 3, he looked really hobbled, really hurt. He came out in game 4. You're talking less than 48 hours. He looked fine. And I don't know what they're shooting him up with. I hope he's going to be all right later. But I think Halliburton looking like he's back to being Halliburton has really helped as well. And then last thing I'll say, and I'm sorry, I'm taking all the points here, but, you can't say enough about the second unit and what TJ McConnell and Obi Toppin bring to that second unit, where they just come in and it's like another level that pushes the Knicks to a point that I just don't feel like they can keep up with that group.
Yeah, the Obi Toppin one's a lot of fun too, obviously, coming from New York.
Yep.
And like the fact that like he is really like kind of a piece that's like pushing this in favor of the Pacers. You know, like the depth aspect of this all is really what's favoring the Pacers. And I want to kind of talk about that too for a second, because, a lot of the national narrative is like the Pacers have gotten really lucky in terms of like injuries and things. Obviously Giannis and Dame, and we talked about this on the last pod. It's like, okay, yes, like that is fortuitous for these guys. However, like part of that is the style that the Pacers play versus these other teams. Like Tom Thibodeau is notorious for running his guys into the ground. Like that has been his calling card for as long as he's been a head coach in the league. And so, yes, as the season wears on, the Knicks are going to have guys go down, especially like an OG Anunoby. Like he's been pretty injury ridden most of his career. So it's like who you build your roster with and how you play them, like that does play a factor into how you finish the season in terms of injuries. And so it is a little bit of annoying because I've seen some people like, this is the easiest stretch, run that a team's made, not having to play against other teams' best players, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, we noted, first of all, the Pacers have had some injury troubles in terms of Mathurin, and Tyrese Halliburton hasn't been right for months. And like, this is the youngest team in the NBA playoffs. Most of these guys, it's their first experience at the NBA playoffs. Like, and they're going out there and they're taking what is given to them. Like you can't fault them for that, So like that part of it has annoyed me a little bit too. But going back to
I'll expand on that for a second. That it always, and this is a Pacer, it's just the Midwest thing, but the talk during the Bucks series is just all about Giannis and Dame and they're getting hurt, and it's like it's as if the Pacers just played a complete scrub team. Like that was still a good Bucks team. And then same thing here. It's about how the Knicks just don't have enough players, and they do have a lot of injury issues. But to your point, Mathurin's hurt. Like and I've said this a couple times. Like we could really use Mathurin in the series. I mean, if you have Mathurin, then suddenly you don't need to play Nembhard on Brunson. You can go from Nesmith to Mathurin and back, and that really is going to affect, what Brunson's going to be able to do. The thing that I wish was getting a little bit more publicity is just how well constructed this full Pacers team is with the first and second units, and how well you have to tip your cap to everyone in the Pacers organization, how well they did constructing this team, getting guys on the margins where you look at, like Obi Toppin was a player the Knicks had. I think we signed him in free agency. The Knicks could have re-signed him. They didn't. They get him in free agency. TJ McConnell left the 76ers, was a free agent. Anybody could have got him. The Pacers signed him. They grabbed him. You look at Nembhard was a late second round pick, not late, but a second round pick 2 years ago. I mean, anybody could, that's a great pick. Ben Shepherd is getting a ton of play in this series and he's playing fantastic. That's a late first round pick, a great draft pick. Even Isaiah Jackson is getting a couple of minutes.
I think we technically traded for Obi, right?
Did we trade? Oh yeah, I guess we did. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we traded a couple of those second rounders. So my bad. But Aaron Nesmith, we traded for him, I believe. Signed him to a fantastic contract. The Celtics had him, could have had him, and then you go and you trade, you get Siakam. Again, Turner's a homegrown guy. You trade for Halliburton. Just the number of guys that are on this team that really could have been had by anybody else in the league, and how this team was built around the margins, not just going after high-priced free agents, kind of really building around guys and watching them grow. I don't think that's been, again, it's never the Pacers, but it is frustrating with how well this team is built, and the construction of this team is what I feel like is taking down the Knicks right now in these last two games.
100%. And even throwing guys like Isaiah Jackson into the mix there to switch things up and having good games, it's been a little bit frustrating at times. If sometimes in game 3, it almost felt like you rode the bench a little bit too much. But it's also it's hard to fault the macro picture of it all too, in terms of how this Pacers team has performed. Looking at Obi, it's pretty cool. So last year he played in 11 playoff games with the Knicks, averaged 7 points, 3.5 rebounds, shot at 30% from three. As a Pacer in the playoffs, he's averaging 12.2 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, shooting 35% from three. Just a big impact. And 19 minutes a game as a Pacer, 16 minutes a game as a Knick. So it's not really his minutes are fluctuating a lot, but he's just thriving in this system. So that's been a really cool piece to see of this series as well.
Yeah, and he's the one where, of all the guys we talk about, he's the only one that isn't re-signed for next year. He's making $6.8 million. We'll get to games 5, 6, and 7, I promise. But you look at the rest of this team. Turner's got one more year left. McConnell has one more year left, although it looks like that's in italics, which means it's not fully guaranteed. But all right, he's got one more year left. Halliburton, obviously, Nesmith. I'm just going through. Jalen Smith has a player option. Shepherd, Nembhard is there. Toppin's the only one who isn't re-signed for next year. That's going to be one that's going to hurt if we can't re-sign him, because I think he plays perfectly here. But you look at what he's doing in the playoffs, and he's a perfect. I'd have to go and look at Bruce Brown's numbers from last year, but Bruce Brown was on a title team, but he made $20 million a year in last offseason free agency. He signed a 2 for $40 with the Pacers. I'm not sure Obi's at that level, but he's definitely worth more than the 6.8. And this is going to be a tough offseason because I think the Pacers are going to put some money toward him, but I'm not sure they can offer him what the open market's going to offer him. And Obi's going to have to decide, do you want to stay in what is kind of basketball nirvana for the way he plays, or do you want to go out and get more money? I think the question is going to be is how much more money is that delta going to be between what the Pacers offer and what free agency or what, the open market will offer.
Right. You almost have to go hope for the Jalen Smith kind of hometown discount. I like the system and I'm thriving in the system, and it's going to help me sustain a longer career, which is going to help me extend my earnings, which, in the long run plays itself in your favor financially. That's kind of the thought process there. Or is it is this just going to be way too big of a bag to go chase? Who cares if the system I'm in? I'm going to go make $16 million a year rather than 10 with the Pacers or whatever they might be able to offer.
Yeah. Or maybe it's just maybe he just signs a 2-year deal or something. It's look, I'll take a little less for 2 years, take a run at this, and then after that, I'll go get my bag. On the flip side, Obi's also not a perfect player. He's coming off the bench for a team that finished 6th in the East. He definitely has his lapses. So I do wonder if he is really a $20-25 million a year guy. He's the only guy you got to worry about. I mean, if we assume the Pacers are going to re-sign Siakam, he's the only one. And what you're seeing in this playoffs is Obi is really stepping up. He's one that you and I wish that they had played a little bit more. Carlisle played a little bit more throughout the year, but you're seeing that Carlisle is playing him more now in the playoffs, and you are seeing this is why you have a coach like Rick Carlisle who knows how to play his team, knows how to play minutes, and you've seen him tighten up his rotation, unlike Tibbs, who's just been wearing guys to the bone, and now, this is not a bug. It's a feature of the way Tibbs coaches, is these guys are going to start running down, and this has always been, to me, what the Pacers had to do is just extend the series, which they did, because more guys might go down, and now you're going again on less than 48 hours rest to, Tuesday night's game in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, it's as good as you could have hoped for this weekend. Because we talked Friday morning, I believe it was Friday morning, when we last podded.
Yeah.
And we kind of talked about how, like, if it comes to winning time, we're worried about, the Pacers being able to close out the Knicks. And then Andrew Nembhard makes a layup, then he makes the big shot, 5 points, and kind of stole game 3. Like the Knicks had done in the first couple games, and then just go out, ride that momentum high, and just absolutely boat race the Knicks last night. I mean, that was just, when they were up 20 in the first, I'm like, damn, like this, we might have done this a little too early. Like, I don't know if they can sustain the, like, I was kind of just waiting on the comeback. And then it was just like, eventually it's like a 40-point game. You're like, all right, I can finally decompress here. Until Pat McAfee got me all fired up again. But
and that's the last thing. Again, the national narrative is annoying. Is it feels like everyone's talking about every other series, and I understand the feeling of like, all right, whoever wins this series is just going to get destroyed by the Celtics. Fine. The Celtics also haven't looked amazing. They look like they're brain dead at times too. But the Pacers are the only team that have 3 just absolute ass kicking wins on their board right now in the playoffs. They 2 of the wins against the Bucks were just complete beatdowns. They just beat down a team, by almost 40 points in the Eastern Conference semis. They have 2 games where they won with basically last second either floaters or threes. They have a lot of pelts on their wall, compared to some other teams that are really struggling to kind of put stuff together. It is odd that it's just kind of this other story, and it's like, oh yeah, they're cute, whatever. And like, this is a team that could be in the Eastern Conference Finals very easily.
Absolutely. And, it's kind of funny too, when, a few weeks ago we were talking about the playoff scenarios for the Pacers, and we both kind of were like, hey, let's go get that 6th seed. Like, that's kind of where we decided we wanted to be. And it's like playing out perfectly for them with that 6th seed. You play a injury-riddled Bucks team. You play a Knicks team now that's breaking down a little bit as well. Like, you got to kind of tip your cap to the basketball gods there as a Pacers fan, of like, man, like, this has worked out really well for them, because, that last day of the season, they could have been anywhere from that 4 to 6 seed, and it just worked out really well for where they're at.
So what we have now, I think, is an interesting chess match, because if you're, looking at this from 2 different sides, and I want your take on it, but if you're the Knicks, you almost look at it as like, you can't, who the hell knows the Tibbs, you feel like you can't run your guys into the ground, for 3 straight games. So it's almost like they've got to just set up the wall, win the 2 games in New York, and maybe not throw away the game in Indy. But it's like, if they get down a little bit in Indy, I could see them throwing the white flag. Like, all right, we just got to rest our guys for game 7. If you look at that, if you're the Pacers, it's like, all right, all we got to do is win 1. And I mean, obviously, again, 1 in New York. If you can get 5, come back home, obviously, I'm saying all of this is like no shit, but it's like all the pressure's on the Knicks. I do think it's an interesting chess match, because I think the Knicks, and if you're Thibodeau, you have to kind of figure out, like, how do you want to run? Or are you just going to run your guys hard? Just we're going to play Josh Hart 48 minutes for the next 3 games. There is a bit of a break between game 5 and 6. So you have a little bit more of a break there. I'm still going back to what I said after game 2 being in the arena in MSG. I'm not sure if the Pacers can win a close game in MSG. I'm not sure if they can keep the game close either, just with the way that crowd is, with the way the calls go. But after seeing them completely boat race the Knicks, I'm starting to have second thoughts. I don't know, man. It does feel like game 5 is the series. I'm not sure the Pacers are going to get any calls in a game 7 in MSG.
I feel the same way. And, we had talked about the winning time stuff, and especially in MSG, and how it's going to be tough, but like, it's hard to also gloss over, like, they probably win game 1 if they don't call that kick ball.
Right.
So it's like
Or the moving screen. They at least are up by 1 maybe.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's like they had an opportunity to do so. Like
Correct.
they played themselves in contention. Both those games OG Anunoby played. Who knows what he's going to do? I can't imagine he'll be back tomorrow if he hadn't even done any court work as of yesterday. Right. So now they're down OG. You just beat the living crap out of these guys, and they're vulnerable, man. Like they're I don't care who you are. That messes with your psychology when you just get ran off the floor like that. Now that's not to say that the Knicks can't come out and do the same to the Pacers because the NBA is weird like that. But that's my one fear with the Pacers is that they let their foot off the gas a little here. That's been one of their MOs this season is like in a game you think like, oh yeah, like they should win that, or they've got a good opportunity here.
Right. Those
are the times when they kind of let their foot off the gas and lose one they shouldn't, or something like that. So like that's my kind of fear here with the Pacers. I don't think that happens just because of the magnitude of the games, and I think they've got a good coach that's got them bought into like how all of this is playing in their favor. But that is slightly on my mind just because they looked so good in game 4. It's been tough for them to kind of put those performances back to back sometimes this season.
The other thing that I'm seeing, and this is where I'm not sure if it's a home being in Indy with the calls or not, but it does feel like as this series has progressed, the Pacer guards can just get to the rim whenever the hell they want. Like McConnell is just feasting. Like he's just getting to the paint. He can stop and put it up. He can pass it off. Nembhard is able to get to the paint whenever he wants. Halliburton is starting to drive a little bit more, and it feels like he knows he's kind of keeping that in his back pocket. And you can see when he gets a little bit pissed, it's like, all right, I'm just going to go in and take a short floater. Like it does feel like that the Pacers are starting to get to a point where they can break down and drive whenever they want. And, it feels like this is kind of the solution to the bad defense is, all right, we're going to not play great defense, but if you score, we can just come back and we know we can get a quick 2, and then we're back on even ground. Let's take a shot at another defensive stand. And then maybe we can, you see McConnell cheating for more steals and going for it. That's the thing that makes me more bullish on the Pacers for game 5 is it does feel like they're starting to figure some stuff out. And it doesn't feel like that's all just being home. It does feel like what the Pacers are good at, which is running and driving and getting to the hoop, is starting to wear down the Knicks, who are just not able to keep up.
Yeah, and one of the big things too is like, everybody talks about the chess matches of 7-game series and things with NBA coaches, and that's all true. But like some of the stuff the Pacers are doing isn't like you can't scheme against really. Like you're going to guard Jalen Brunson 94 feet every single time down the floor. Like you can't really scheme against that. You could try to free him up with screens and things, but like if you're going to give him hell for 94 feet, like you're giving him hell for 94 feet. And if his body's fatigued, he's going to wear down. Like you can, I guess, play him less minutes, but then you're screwing yourself there too. So that's what I like about this Pacers team and in this series is that, Rick Carlisle made great decisions in terms of putting Nesmith and McConnell on Brunson. And there's not a lot of things that the Knicks can do to kind of punch back or, counter punch there. And so, they're going to try, they're going to go to the drawing board and try to figure some things out. But ultimately they're really like what they're relying upon is really just like willpower, like just guys digging down deep. And like at some point that just runs out.
Yeah.
Especially if you're playing 42 to 48 minutes per game, like you just lose that willpower just out of sheer physics.
Well, and again, the thing that what the Bucks started doing that slowed the Pacers down is they started also doing some full court. Like they were really denying Halliburton the ball, from 90 feet on. The Knicks aren't doing that, but I also think because the Knicks can't. Like Brunson is taking so much of the offense that he can't then guard Halliburton for 94 feet. Like he has to rest on defense. And then Josh Hart is in the same boat. Like he's using so much energy. DiVincenzo is not really a great defender, so you don't want to put him out there. So the Knicks really can't do that. But again, this back to the roster construction, the Pacers can, because you can run TJ McConnell. He's only averaging 21 minutes a game in this series. So go play full court, man. Go nuts. Because then you also have, Nesmith is only average, he's 31 minutes a game, but, he's not taking it the entire load. And I'd say, it's like 18 minutes a game he's doing the full court press. So the Pacers can kind of keep someone on Brunson the entire time, but you're noticing that Halliburton is not getting that. And again, the way that Carlisle runs this lineup is normally either McConnell or Nembhard is in with Halliburton. So if they are going, the Knicks do not have the manpower to take two guys up 94 feet. And so if you get, Halliburton the whole way, it's like, great, give it to McConnell, who sometimes is even better at pushing the ball even faster than Halliburton. There's a world where it does feel like the Pacers have figured this out. And they have a strategy that I'm not sure the Knicks can stop. But again, you get to New York and MSG, and the calls are going to be different. But this is, to me, where if the Pacers, if you can get a little bit of a lead, if you can get up by 4, 5, or 6 in the third or fourth quarter, this is where you have to put the hammer down. And to me, winning time for Game 5 is going to be in that, 8 to 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And this is where, if you're Carlisle, maybe you just need to look at like, all right, I know Halliburton normally comes in with like 6 minutes to go in the game. Maybe if it's feel like it's slipping, or you feel like you have it and you put your throat down, like maybe you just bring it in and you go with 9 minutes to go. Cause I think if you get really, really, if we're down to a close game with 3 minutes to go, I'm probably going to think like, well, we're screwed, because I just don't think we're going to get any of the calls. And what Brunson is going to do with his up and under. He's going to get to the line. It does feel like this game is going to be won in the first half of the fourth quarter. That's my take of it.
No, I totally agree. And yeah, at least I know I'd feel a lot better about things if they've got that 6-point lead and things like that. I'll feel a lot better about things too. Basically after that first quarter, kind of seeing which Halliburton shows up, and if it's the aggressive, assertive one that's creating for himself and creating for others, and just has that moxie back and that swagger back, and playing with a little bit of an edge, like those are all the things that kind of seem like we're missing from Halliburton in some of that Bucks series, and definitely Game 1 of the Knicks series. But like, he's definitely got that edge to him back, and I think we'll know pretty quickly if he's got that again in Game 5. And to me, that's going to kind of dictate where my mind's at for how the Pacers do in Game 5.
Yeah, I'm also looking, it does feel like we haven't had the Miles Turner game yet that we might have. He's only averaging 1.8 made threes per game this series. He was really feasting in the Bucks series. And it doesn't feel like it's so much the Knicks doing. Again, it feels like the guards in this series are able to get to the rim, and they're not looking to kick it back out to Miles. But I do wonder, if we have a Miles game coming, because I don't see anybody on the Knicks who can guard him either. Like, Hartenstein's not been keeping up. I just think the Pacers are finding other ways to score. It's been a lot more guard heavy, but it does feel like we have a possible Miles Turner game on our hands coming up, because we never got any of it in this series. And same with Siakam. Siakam's had a kind of a quiet 18 points a game this series. Every time Siakam has the ball, he's got like Josh Hart on him, or, he'll have DiVincenzo on him. It's like, dude, take him. Like, you can take him every time. This is where the Knicks not having OG is a big deal. I'm with you. I don't think we see OG in Game 5. If the Pacers lose Game 5, we go to Game 6 here in Indy. Obviously, that would be a literal must win. I think it's interesting. The game time has not been picked out yet. It's going to be a Friday game. The Celtics-Cleveland game would be there. That's booked as an 8:30 game. I guess
the Pacers play at 6.
Has it been announced?
Well, if that series goes to where they play Friday, yes, the Pacers would play at 6.
Okay, where do you see that? I've been on like ESPN. I've been on NBA. Like, I've been looking to see what that time of the game is going to be.
So I was listening to Kevin Bowen this morning on the right end, and he was talking about if that series, the other series, goes to 6 games, they get the 8:30 time slot, which would move the Pacers to the 6. But if that series is over, then the Pacers get slid to 8:30.
Okay, so we just got to wait for that to go. But they don't want to announce it yet because they don't want to lock us in at 6. I'm with you. Okay, 6 would be fun. Like another early.
That's how I am. I like
Yeah.
the 6 o'clock Fridays. I can just hang out downtown and right after work, like I'm all about it. Speaking of too, if it goes to game 6, knock on wood, the Pacers haven't lost a home game in 56 days.
No, it's been a while. Yeah. How do you see the next? We'll probably pod before Friday, but how do you right now? How do you see the next 3 games playing out, or 2 games, depending on how things go?
Man, this is a bad time to ask me because I'm riding a high right now. Like,
Same.
I mean, after yesterday and all of the Knicks breakdowns, and I just don't see physically how they like. It's not like you got a bunch of rest coming into this next game, and you've got flights and all of those things that you're also dealing with, and you likely don't have OG Anunoby. Like, I think the Pacers take game 5 in a close one. And then if you take 5, it's like, damn, like you got a great opportunity to play 6 in a place you haven't lost in 2 months. So it's like, I hate myself for saying like, oh yeah, the Pacers got the next 2, but like that is how I'm truthfully feeling right now, is that they get the next 2.
I agree with everything you're saying. I have to go back with what I'm not sure the Pacers can win in New York. Not based on I think they can. I just think they have to win by 10 if they're going to do it. And at times in both of those first 2 games, the Pacers did look rattled by what was going on in New York and the calls. And I worry about that. I'm going to have to unfortunately think that I think they're going to lose both the New York games. I think they're going to win game 6. I think this is going 7. I think it'll be a hell of a finish. I could just see them losing game 7 in New York. But just for fun, in the last 5 minutes or so that we have, if the Pacers do what you said, I think you and I both agree they got to kind of win 4 in a row. Like I don't see a world where they lose game 5 and then win 6 and 7. I think that's a very tough putt. But let's just say they do what you said. They win Tuesday, they win Friday, they close out the Knicks. Is this the most improbable Eastern Conference Finals in Pacers history?
It's got to be, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, because it's probably like, it's one of the first times I can really remember them having like an upset, if that happens. We almost pulled it off. We were an 8 seed, and I believe we took somebody to 5 back when it was a 5-game series. Is an 8. We technically, I believe, the last time we played the Knicks, they were the 2 and we were the 3, I believe.
Yep.
So I guess that's technically an upset, but like I can't remember the Pacers having like an upset series. We almost did it against the Heat in 2012 or 2013.
So this team went 47-35. They went to the conference finals in 2013, 12-13. They were 49-32, so only 2 games better. But that was a team that had gone to the Eastern Conference semis the year before. They went to the conference finals the next year. That was a team that was 56 wins. I think that was the number 1 seed. They went to the conference finals in 03-04. That team was 61 wins. They went to the finals in 00. That was a 56 win team. They were in the Eastern Conference Finals back-to-back years in 98 and 99. 99 was a strike shortened season. They had 33 wins the year before.
Larry Johnson 4-point play, right?
Yeah. 58 wins in 97, 98. That was against the Bulls. That team should have beaten the Bulls. And then they were in the Eastern Conference Finals in 94 and 95, and that team was 47 wins and 52 wins. So, I mean, 47 wins in 94, maybe that team, that was the team that beat the Knicks in 90. No. They lost the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals because that was the Knicks team that went to the 94. They went to the finals.
And 95 was the Magic.
95 was the Magic, yeah. So 94 was they lost to the Knicks in that Eastern Conference Final. So maybe that 94 team, because they had kind of been losing. They had lost a first round matchup every single year. And then that 94 team, that was the first time they had won a playoff series in a while, I think. Might have been the first time they ever won a playoff series.
So it's a pretty long-winded answer for us to say, yeah, I think
it's been a while.
Probably, probably one of the more unheralded runs to the conference finals.
Yeah, I mean, coming in as a 6 seed, it would be wild. And, just to put our fun hat on, is there any world where you see this team giving the Celtics a run for their money?
Probably not, but it kind of reminds me of that first season where the Pacers played the Heat in the Eastern Conference semis.
Yep.
And they kind of put like the NBA on notice, like we're coming, and then they played them the next 2 years in the conference finals. But it kind of signified to us as fans, like we're legit, and it signified to the rest of the NBA, like we're a young upcoming team with like Paul George and Roy Hibbert and those guys. So like, to me, it's kind of like that scenario. And I remember the Pacers actually went up 2-1, I think, in that Heat series, and then they lost the next 3. But I could see a scenario like that where you like accidentally win one, and then kind of got them on the ropes. You're playing with a lot of momentum. You're at home for game 3 or something, and you could take a series lead. But I couldn't see them winning 4 games against the Celtics.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the thing is, they played the Bucks well in the in-season tournament when it mattered, and they beat the Celtics when it mattered in the in-season tournament. They beat the Celtics without Halliburton one game. The Celtics also just annihilated the Pacers at one point, I think, in December.
50-some point win.
Yeah, I mean, the Pacers would have to play out of their mind to beat the Celtics, because,
especially if Porzingis is back.
Correct. Has he been back yet, or
he hasn't been back yet?
Okay.
But they showed him he was like shooting around during shoot around the other day. Like, seems like he's getting close.
Yeah, I mean, we'll know more tonight if the Celtics need to win tonight. Like, if they let the Cavs keep this series around, that's going to get even more interesting. But I'm with you. I think the Pacers would have to shoot out of their gourd, because just defensively, with having Drew Holiday, having Jaylen Brown, having Jason Tatum defensively, I just don't know how the Pacers are going to be able to stop the Celtics and then also score against the Celtics. I think they can. I think they would hit a wall, but that would be awesome. I mean, that would be insane. This is still we are definitely we are in gravy mode at this point. We have gotten as much as we want, and I think from a team development and a team growth perspective, this has been the absolute apex of what you could expect or what you could hope for this postseason. Like, this is teaching the fans, it's teaching the greater city of Indy, like, this team is real, this team is fun, and this team is here to stay, and you're getting a lot of these guys back, and I think this has been just an absolute A+ for the playoffs.
100%. Just a funny aside too, I was talking to a Knicks fan downtown Friday, and he said it was cheaper for him to fly here, get a hotel room, and go to the game than it was to just go to the game as a New Yorker in New York form.
That's fair. There was a lot of Knicks fans. Like, I was unhappy with having gone to MSG and being one of like 6 Pacers fans there was a lot of Knicks fans in the house. And I get it for the exact reason.
How many of them were New Yorkers, and how many of them were like people that live in Zionsville?
Yeah, no, it's fair. Somewhere near one that I sat next to in Game 3 was definitely, they were from New York, they were from Queens, and it was just a lot of like, he's a bum, like, oh, Nimrod, he's a bum, get the brooms out, like, just so much talk. It's like, man, go home, go back to New York.
See ya.
Yeah, peace out. Hope you had a good time in Indy. Hope St. Elmo's is good to you. Anyway, I think that's all I got. I'm excited. I hope that your vision of the future works out, not mine. But no matter what, this, I'm walking away. It was nice on Sunday. Took my wife, took my 2 kids, like all 4 of us went to the game. It was awesome. Marry the right person, because she was like, this is a great Mother's Day. Going to the Pacers game, like, this is awesome. But we're leaving, and I'm like, this is, just enjoy the next week and a half if you're a Pacers fan, because we're walking away, and I was just telling my wife and my sons, like, this is a fun team to watch. Like whether they win this series or not, it is just, there's a lot of dudes I like. And somebody else is asking me, who's your favorite player? It's like, all of them. Like, seriously, It's just like, I love Obi Toppin. I love TJ McConnell. Halliburton is awesome. Nimhart's had moments. It is just, this has been an absolute delight as a fan to be watching this team because they play with so much heart, so much passion. The way they play is fun to watch. It is just, it's been an absolute delight, especially when I started a podcast. Like, I want to talk more about this team. And I'm excited for what they have. And it feels like we're on the first step of what could be a fun 4 to 5 year run. But that's just my 2 cents. I know in talking with you, you feel the same way, but it is just like, this team is so much fun to watch.
Absolutely. And a lot, like I said, a lot of similarities to that team back now almost 15 years ago.
Yeah.
With Paul George and those guys. So a lot of things to be excited about as an Indiana Pacers fan, that's for sure. And hopefully keep this thing running and get some Pacers and Racers action going and just have a great time with it.
Yeah, we kind of got it with the Indy Grand Prix this weekend. And all right, Tony. Well, hopefully next time we talk, we'll be looking at, are we going to close out the series in 6? But with that, we got to win one in MSG Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Want to thank you all for listening. And as always, this is Scott for the Right Up Meridian podcast, signing off.